Rachel stormed into her mother's elegantly appointed room, her pulse hammering with fury. "I will not leave with that overgrown fool," she burst out, her voice edged with defiance. Her mother, calm as ever, didn't even look up from the selection of evening gowns she was considering. A flicker of amusement danced in her eyes as she turned, taking in her daughter's flushed face and heaving chest. "Oh," she mused, the corners of her lips curling. "He approves." Rachel faltered. "What?" Her mother's sharp gaze flicked over her, reading her like an open book. "I can smell him all over you." She gave a small knowing nod. "And he is no fool," Rachel bristled. "He's a second son playing pretend as an alpha. I will not mate with him." Her mother sighed, folding her arms. "Hush now, child. He is the alpha. His father stepped down, and no one is foolish enough to challenge him. Who do you think is big enough, strong enough, or more appropriately, stupid enough to try?" Rachel's pulse quickened. Joseph should be alpha. Lazarus's older brother was a trusted friend of her own brother's, a man who, by all rights, should have inherited the title. Her mother's expression softened into something dangerously close to pity. "You say that because you refuse to accept reality. Lazarus has the largest, meanest wolf I've ever seen. He commands power with nothing more than a look. But I don't even need to tell you that." She inhaled deeply and her lips curled in satisfaction. "I can already smell your excitement." Rachel's stomach dropped. "What? Fear, too," her mother added, reaching out to smooth Rachel's hair in a rare display of affection. "But not nearly enough." Rachel stepped back, shaking her head. "I am a damn good lawyer living my best life in L.A. I am not moving to Hickstown, USA with some stranger." Her mother chuckled. "Not Hickstown, Wyoming. And he is no stranger, not anymore." She held Rachel's gaze, letting the words sink in. "He's an astute businessman, young, handsome, and an alpha. That is every girl's dream." Rachel scoffed. "I'm not a girl. I'm a woman, and I have a life." Her mother's smile faded, replaced by quiet steel. "There are less than 10,000 wolves left on this continent. Alliances keep us strong. Alliances keep us safe. Your father and I gave you all the freedom you needed to explore, but the pack comes first. This is your duty." Rachel's jaw clenched. Maybe being banished isn't such a bad idea. Her mother only laughed. "Daughter, you cannot hide from me. You feel the pull just as much as he does." Rachel didn't answer, because denying it would be a lie. Dinner was a lavish affair, designed to welcome the Ramsbergs into their home. Lazarus, dressed impeccably in black, was a force of presence at the table, his every move commanding attention. Seated at her father's left, with her to his right, they were an undeniable focal point. Yet Rachel barely noticed the others. They symbolized a future she refused to accept. "We should arrange the marking ceremony soon," her father said, his voice calm but final. "There's no reason to delay." Lazarus inclined his head. "In 5 days, perhaps? My household is already making preparations. I will handle all travel arrangements." Rachel's fork clattered against her plate. "Excuse me, there will be." "Rachel," her mother interrupted smoothly, never losing her composure. "Mrs. Tangelo will take your measurements tonight." Laughter rippled down the table. Rachel's stomach twisted. They weren't even pretending she had a choice. "Oh, come on, Rachel," Cassidy scoffed, swirling her wine. "You should be grateful. You finally get to be useful." Rachel stiffened, but before she could respond, she caught the flicker of irritation in Lazarus's gaze. He didn't speak, but something about the slight narrowing of his eyes sent a warning through the room. Cassidy, oblivious, pressed on. "You've been given an incredible opportunity, and you will show respect. Running away won't change anything." "Cassidy," their mother warned. "No, Mother," Cassidy snapped, her voice sharp. "She has the chance to be more than she ever could have been on her own." Rachel clenched her jaw. Cassidy had never forgiven her for being weaker, smaller, for potentially becoming a Luna, something Cassidy had always wanted but never received. Rachel exhaled slowly, forcing herself to stay calm. Her mother had been right about one thing. Fear curled in her gut. Not fear of being taken. Fear of what she felt in Lazarus's presence. The unshakable pull. The awareness. The way he looked at her, not just like he wanted her, but like he knew her. And that strange, tingling feeling of familiarity at the back of her mind. She was certain they had never met. Yes, he looked like Joseph, but this was more than resemblance. This was something ancient, something written in her bones. A low growl rumbled in her throat. A warning. a challenge. Lazarus's lips curled into a slow, knowing smile. "I was hoping for a little more entertainment," he murmured, his voice pitched low enough for only her to hear. Amusement dripped from his words, but his gaze burned with something darker. He leaned in, close enough that she caught the faint scent of pine and something wilder beneath it. "A mouse will gnaw off its own leg to escape a trap," he mused, his voice smooth as velvet. "But what happens when the trap wants the mouse to fight back?" Rachel's breath hitched. He was playing with her, testing her. The logical part of her screamed to shove him away, to tell him exactly where he could shove his games. But the other part, the part that burned, that ached for something she refused to name, stayed rooted to the spot. Lazarus lifted a hand, slow, deliberate. He didn't touch her. Not quite. Instead, he brushed his knuckles against hers, the lightest contact, nothing more than a whisper of skin against skin. Rachel swallowed, hard, but he had already caught the way her pulse jumped. His smile deepened, razor-sharp. "Run, little mouse," he murmured, his breath warm against her skin. "The chase will excite me more than you know." Rachel sucked in a sharp breath. Every instinct screamed at her to move, because if she didn't, she wasn't sure she'd want to.